Good morning and welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's administrative meeting for November 17th, 2021. Before we begin today, there's been some good news overnight. A friend of this commission, Chairman Willie Phillips of the DC Public Service Commission, was confirmed by the Senate on a unanimous vote of 100 to 0 to fill a position at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. He will bring a well-respected voice to the commission, and I also look forward to him joining the 15-member FERC-NARUC task force on interstate transmission. So,
can I add to that?
Congratulations, Chairman Phillips. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Just to add on to that, Mr. Chairman, because I was very happy to see that news this morning, as we all were, I'm sure. But there are now two former state commissioners on the FERC. Both of our colleagues, we both worked with both, and they're both from MACRUC, and that's a sense of pride for all of us. So we're pleased to work with them in the future.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you for noting that the MACRUC, we have 2 out of 5 now on the federal panel. In other federal news, earlier this week, the bipartisan infrastructure bill was signed into law by the president. It is going to bring a tremendous amount of new funding, both nationally and to the state. Nationally, we're going to see $65 billion invested in the wholesale transmission grid, which in my opinion is sorely needed. An additional $15 billion for electric vehicle infrastructure and the electrification of school buses. Maryland is set to receive somewhere between $6 and $8 billion of this infrastructure funding, including tens of millions of dollars for electric vehicle charging, which would be in addition to the electric vehicle charging that has been approved by this commission. So we will see some improvements to the state and our infrastructure in the very near term. I'm also very pleased to announce that we now have a second commissioner that drives an electric vehicle. Commissioner Linton is now driving electric, and we will be competing for the chargers at the PSC parking spaces. So congratulations, Commissioner Linton.
Look forward to visiting the BGE chargers in the very near future.
Yes. I hope the BGE folks are listening, and I hope all the chargers in your territory are in a state of good repair. In terms of comings and goings, we do have the addition of a few new employees with us. To begin with, we have Trevor Tomlinson, who is one of our new legal advisors. Trevor has a bachelor's degree from UVA, and he received his law degree from the University of Baltimore up the street. Trevor has a demonstrated interest in energy and environmental issues. He was previously a law clerk at the Maryland Environmental Service. He was also a law clerk to the administrative law judges at FERC in Washington. And additionally, he was our summer law clerk at the Public Service Commission last year. So we welcome Trevor back and look forward to him serving in this new capacity. Particularly of note, I'm very happy to announce that Trevor passed the bar exam in the past week. So he's now a full-fledged counselor. So congratulations. Additionally, we have Morgan Hoy starting today. She will be a technical advisor to the commission. She received her Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Science at UNC Wilmington. She also received a Master's in Natural Resources at NC State in Raleigh. On top of that, she, like Trevor, also has a demonstrated interest in utility and energy issues. She was an intern with the Nicholas Institute at Duke University as well, and she'll be bringing her talent to the commission starting today. We welcome Morgan. In the departures column, Anna Joy Harris, unfortunately, has departed, but for bigger and better things. Anna Joy worked for us for the past few years in the electricity division as an economist, working on many rate cases, and we've seen her grow and flourish over the past 2 years. And I'm happy to announce that she will be taking her talents to the Office of Energy Markets and Regulation at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and we wish her well. So congratulations, Anna Joy. With that, we do have meeting minutes to approve from our last meeting 2 weeks ago on November 3rd. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? the meeting minutes are approved. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. There are 5 items on today's consent agenda. Item number 1 is an application from Daniel Horniak for certification of a geothermal heating and cooling renewable energy facility. Item number 2 is a request for certification of a renewable energy facility from Hydro FS LLC. Items number 3 and 4 are unbundled network element loop forbearance amendments to interconnection agreements from respectively Verizon Maryland LLC and Cooperative Communications Inc. and Verizon Maryland LLC and IDT America Corp. Finally, item number 5 is a notice of debt financing from FiberLight LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Seeing no questions from the commissioners, with respect to item number 1, I move that we approve the application and issue a renewable energy facility certification number and energy savings estimate, that we direct the applicant, Daniel Horniak, to establish a REC account with PJM GATS within 30 days of certification and file a geothermal and thermal biomass generation report with the commission within 1 week of each recording of generation data with GATS of RECs created, and direct Mr. Horniak to file notice with the commission within 30 days of any changes to the information in his application. With respect to item number 2, I move that we approve the application and issue a renewable energy facility ID certification number, direct the applicant, Hydro FS LLC, to establish a REC account with PJM GATS within 30 days of certification, and direct the applicant to notify the commission within 30 days if the information on which the application is based should change. With respect to items number 3 and 4, I move that we approve the interconnection agreement 10 days following a 30-day comment period unless adverse comments are filed. And with respect to item number 5, I move that we note the financing by FiberLight LLC. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motions are approved.
Mr. Chairman, items number 6 and 7 on the administrative agenda are both from Orzel Energy Solutions LLC. They're applications for licenses to supply natural gas and electricity. On these items for staff, we have Michael Zhang and Peter Wilson. And for the company, I'll do my best, Chaim Orzel.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning. We'll begin with Mr. Zhang.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Michael Jang on behalf of staff. Items number 6 and 7 are applications by Orzel Energy Solutions LLC for authorization to serve as a natural gas and electricity broker in Maryland, respectively. The company serves customers in New York, Ohio, Connecticut, and Maryland, and has provided energy broker services for approximately 2 years. The New York Department of Public Service does not regulate brokers, and staff did not find any complaints filed against the company in Ohio, Connecticut, or Maryland. Additionally, the company was provided an A rating from the New York Better Business Bureau in May of this year. The company began operation as a broker in Maryland in 2019, even though the company had not requested and had not received commission authorization to provide broker services. Staff considers several factors when recommending a penalty for unauthorized operations by a supplier, such as how long the supplier has operated in Maryland without authorization, as well as precedents. The company responded to commission staff's data requests, and responses were provided in confidential Appendix A in the buck sheet. Based on the company's revenues, the company would have owed the commission approximately $45 in assessments if the company obtained a license in 2019. Staff recommends that the company pay a civil penalty of $500 for operating as a natural gas broker without authorization, along with a separate $500 civil penalty for operating as an electricity broker without authorization, for a total of $1,000. The commission previously imposed a total penalty of $2,000 in a similar case. Staff recommends that the commission grant the company a license to operate as a natural gas and electricity supplier in Maryland, limited to broker services. Staff also recommends that the company pay a $500 civil penalty for operating as a natural gas broker without authorization, along with a separate $500 civil penalty for operating as an electricity broker without authorization, for a total of $1,000. Additionally, staff recommends the commission direct the company to provide marketing materials specific to its Maryland operations to the commission staff and the Office of People's Counsel 30 days prior to utilization of the materials in Maryland. Finally, staff recommends the Commission direct the company to notify the Commission within 30 days of any changes to the information upon which the Commission relied in granting the licenses. Thank you, and we are available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Zhang. We'll turn to Mr. Orzel to respond. And Mr. Orzel, you're not represented by counsel, is that correct?
No, I am not.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like to respond to the summary just provided by Mr. Zhang, please do.
Yeah, everything Mr. Chang said is accurate. And first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. And as I said to Mr. Zhang and Mr. Wilson, I'm really sorry for that this happened, and if there was anything that I can do besides for paying a fine to rectify anything, I'm happy to. I'm a very straightforward person. I'm happy to answer any questions. I have made sure that none of my clients have ever paid variable rates. And I really want to help customers save money on their natural gas and electricity bills. And also, I really believe that this is something that I want to help. I really want to help people. I really want to be very. I'm very straightforward, and I want customers to be able to meet somebody who's straightforward, who explains to them everything. And even on my website, I actually go and I detail how a person can save money, and explaining the price to compare when I speak to them, and what the best thing to do is. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to appear before you, and I'm not somebody who I don't like. I want to. I'm happy to, whatever the fee that the commission decides, if either I will pay it out of pocket or I'll get a loan from somebody in my family. I'm not a rich guy, but whatever you guys decide, I'm happy to excuse me, I'm just a little nervous here. I'm happy to meet whatever criteria the commission wants me to meet. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Orzel. Just as a preliminary matter here, you filed some of your responses and the appendices as confidential, so I want to respect that. I don't intend to ask you any questions about your profit and loss sheet or the number of customers that you currently have on your books. But there may be some other questions where we get into that we would have to discuss some of this confidential information, and I'd like your approval in advance if it's okay that we discuss some of this publicly. Okay.
And I'm happy to share all the information I've shared with Michael and Peter and the whole team. I have no problem. I have nothing to hide. Whatever you want to ask me, it's fair game. And I'm here to comply. I want to do the right thing, and I want to save people money. I want to do the right. I'm not like, I've seen some other brokers that I'm not here to talk negative about other people. But I really want to put my customers first, and one of the reasons why I started my company is because I really want to help people. I'm not the kind of person that I had a customer in Ohio that another broker was charging 3 times the amount of money that whatever the standard was. And I helped the guy save a lot of money, and I'm happy to provide, my customers, if you want to speak to them, if you want to ask them any questions. I'm an open book. I have nothing to hide. Whatever you want me to give you, I will give you.
Okay. Based on what you just stated, any confidentiality privilege with respect to the documents that you filed with the commission will be lifted for the purposes of this discussion that we're having with you today.
Thank you so much.
As I understand, it was in one of the appendices that you filed with us. The reason for your not seeking a license with this commission is because, as I understand it, no license is required in New York, and you assumed that Maryland had a similar practice of not licensing brokers. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And when did you learn of the licensing requirement and how?
So when I started, shopping around with other companies, like Constellation, and when I tried to get into another company called Direct Energy, they brought up the concept of having a license. But I was very confused because some companies never asked me for a license and some companies did. So like it was I don't even, it's looking back, it was, I should have never assumed such a thing like that. But like I kind of thought that, like, I don't know why. I mean, because also it was, I was new to the business and I should have known better, and I apologize. Um, but I thought maybe, okay, well, some companies, require a license, and I thought of it, I thought it was more of um, a next level kind of thing, when to get to the next level, and some companies require a license. I don't know why I thought that. I didn't fully understand all the rules and regulations. And I take responsibility, and it's not, I had no intention. If I would have known, I would have definitely filed all the paperwork. And I was also, because I have limited amount of money, it took me time to find the right licensing company to help me file everything, because I'm a smart person, but I don't specialize. I'm not. I don't.
Mr. Orzel,
Sorry.
I'm going to stop you there. I'm not your attorney, but if I was your attorney, I would ask you just please concentrate on the question and
Sure.
answer the
Sure.
question directly.
Sure.
And you said it was basically some of your suppliers asked you for your Maryland license number, and that tipped you off to the
Yeah.
fact that you did not have a license. I'm looking at your website now. It looks like you work with at least 6 or 7 suppliers, including Constellation and Energy Harbor. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. You noted the number of customers that you currently, or that you subscribed in Maryland. Are they still customers of yours?
Well, I mean, the contract ends at the end of this month. I mean, they signed. Um, they sign. The contracts go for for a year. So I haven't made any sales, but like the contract goes until the end of the expiration, which is the end of this month. It's one real estate company that I sold gas and and electricity to. So it's one customer for 2 different commodities.
And we did see that in the confidential section that it was just one customer there. Can I ask how you recruited that customer?
Sure. So I have a friend of mine from college who works in this company. His name is Dove Gluck, and I called him up when I first got into the business, and he referred me to the person who's in charge of purchasing, and that's how I got into the person. I got in touch with the people.
And in what service territory, what utility territory in Maryland is that customer located?
Baltimore Gas and Electric, and Pepco. Pepco was for the electric, and the natural gas was for BG&E.
So these, is it the same customer with operations in both service territories, or is it 2 separate customers?
I mean, it's the same customer, 2 different LLCs, but they're both owned by the same Quest Management group.
And holding yourself out as a broker in Maryland with respect to this one company with operations in 2 service territories, can you reveal if they paid a rate in excess of the standard offer service rate?
Sure. Well, according to BGE's rate that's posted online in the schedule for commercial gas, they saved around around $30,000 in natural gas fees. They paid an average of, their contract was for 35 cents a therm since last year. And for Pepco, I believe it was I have to double check. I believe it was 5.4 cents, which includes everything for a fully fixed contract. And the rate for Pepco was, I believe it was a lot higher. I have to check the exact rate, but I believe it was in the sixes.
Okay, you could probably see where I'm going at this. If you didn't have a license and your customers ended up paying more than the standard offer service rate,
Yes,
you would not be able to collect those unjust gains.
100%.
Well, I'm going to allow my colleagues to ask some questions, but obviously, Mr. Orzel, operating in the state without a license is a serious issue here. The commission in the past 2 or 3 years has stepped up its enforcement with respect to some of the suppliers that you mentioned that either engage in deceptive marketing practices, sell at a multiple of the standard offer service rate, or are in violation of our code. And you may not be familiar with this, but we have both the Public Utilities article, which is the state law, and the Code of Maryland regulations, which regulate both our retail suppliers, our brokers for both electric and natural gas. And when you move into this business involving commodities, I would expect somebody with your background and intellect, and the fact that I've seen that on your website you attended Johns Hopkins, went to the Carey School. You would be aware of the fact that if you don't have the expertise, you need to hire somebody locally on the ground here in Maryland that does, in order to have you in full compliance with the law and with the regulations. With that, I'll turn to my colleagues for questions of Mr. Orzel and staff. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Orzel. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Did I hear you say earlier that you don't intend to offer any variable rate contracts in the state of Maryland?
That is correct.
Okay, and if that changes, you would probably notify the commission then after.
100%. But I always make sure that if someone's contract expires, if I can't get a hold of them, I make sure to send them back to the utility, because these companies charge a lot more money than the standard offer rate when it comes to variable rates. So I don't want the customer to overpay, but that's what, 100%.
Okay, I mean, I don't think there's a requirement in our COMAR that you notify us, but since you made that commitment here, in light of the fact that you were in violation of getting a license, I wanted to kind of hold your feet to the fire on that and make sure that you understood. If you ever start
100%.
offering variable rate contracts, we probably need to know that.
100%.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask you about the states you do operate in. So you talked about New York, and they don't require a license, but you also operate in Ohio and Connecticut. Do they require licenses for broker services?
Connecticut doesn't require a license, and Ohio does require a license. And I started off, I wasn't sure. I was working on both states, and I got a license. It was right, I think after, I have to look at the exact date, but it was I got a license in Ohio, and I didn't like putting Maryland number 2 or Ohio number 1. I just happened to get a license in Ohio first. The paperwork was a little bit simpler, and I filed everything, and it was taking me time to put all the paperwork together.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So how long did you operate in Ohio without a license?
I never did.
You never operated there without a license. So you got a license before you tried to operate in that state.
That is correct.
Okay. Are you the only employee of Orzel Energy?
Well, I have one other person that sometimes sends me accounts, and we split the commissions, but he's not an employee. He's just a 1099. I pay him I pay him a commission.
Okay.
But yeah.
How familiar have you made yourself with our consumer protection laws in the state of Maryland with regard to energy choice and energy services?
I think that there's always I don't know I haven't read through the whole thing. I will be honest, I haven't read through the whole thing. It's something if I see anything that's ethical thing that I would have to read through, or that the commission says is a good thing, I will read through it. And if you want to test me on it, I will test on it. I'm happy to do whatever the commission wants me to do.
So I'm looking at the buck sheet, and there's a compliance section there, and it says that you signed an affidavit of general compliance attesting the company agrees to comply with all applicable federal and state consumer protection, environmental laws and regulations. But if you don't know what they are, just like you didn't know we required you to have a license to operate in the state, how do I know? Give me some sense that you're not going to kind of mistakenly. I mean, ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? I'm sure you would agree with that.
100%.
So give me some sense that, you signed this affidavit, and I'm sure under penalty of perjury, and I'm sure with good intent. But if you're not familiar with our laws in this regard, how do we know you're not going to be veering all over the place and ping-ponging off of some of these consumer protections that are in our statutory and regulatory documents?
So the way I operate, I always put the customer first. That's one of the main reasons why I started this, is I saw people who got overcharged, and the way I see it is I always put the customer first. If I can't save the customer money, I turn the customer away. I don't want to. There's no reason for someone to go on a fixed contract if they can't save money. If their load factor is not good and they can't get a good rate, then there's no point in putting them on a contract. So I mean, I've done my. I'm happy to, so that's just the way I see things.
Do you have an attorney?
I do not have one, but I can get one if I'm required to.
I can't require that of you, but might be a good idea to get some advisor with regard to compliance with our laws and regulations, because part of our job is to protect the citizens of the state of Maryland when we issue these licenses. And if I don't have a great deal of confidence in whoever I'm licensing as a commissioner, that gives me some pause for concern for our citizens and their protections.
Well, I'm happy to hire an attorney if that is if that would make you feel more comfortable. I'm happy to hire an attorney.
Let me be very clear. I'm not asking you to do that. I am not asking you to do that. And I want to be very clear about that. I'm just thinking common sense may dictate, you may want to school up on some of this stuff, because there's potentially severe penalties and consequences if you don't comply. And you signed an affidavit that you're going to comply.
I understand.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Additional questions? Or
I have a
Commissioner Herman?
Thank you. Mr. Chang, I believe you said that prior offenses that are similar were fined at $2,000. Why did you recommend $1,000 here instead of $2,000?
Yes, so in the prior case, which I believe was Lightstar Energy Group, they had operated for, I believe, a bit more than 4 years without a license. And in this case, it was only approximately 2. So we thought it would be appropriate for it to be less severe in that case.
Okay, thanks. And if you recall, and it's okay if you don't, do you recall whether or not that Lightstar, was it?
Yes.
Whether Lightstar was actively marketing in the state?
That I do not recall at this time, but I can find out if you would like to know.
All right. No, don't bother. It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Additional questions for the parties? Okay. As I stated, Mr. Orzel, I believe that this was a serious infraction, and as Commissioner O'Donnell stated, that ignorance of the law is not an excuse. I think you would be well served by having either competent counsel or somebody who's familiar with the state's regulations and laws going forward. I am going to propose a motion today that would grant you a license to do business as a broker in the state of Maryland for both electric and gas commodity. You did offer to Commissioner O'Donnell, and we will condition our approval that you do not offer variable rates in the state without prior authorization. I will also move that we accept the recommendation of the penalty offered by the staff for both the electric and the gas license, and receipt of that payment is required in advance of approval of that licenses. So effectively, it's a condition. Does that all make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll take a poll of the commissioners in just a moment. So at this time, with respect to items number 6 and 7, which is the
Mr. Chairman, would this be, so your motion is to both grant the license and impose the fine, is that correct?
correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would like to separate the question. I think this gentleman made a mistake. I think he simply reached out to a friend in Maryland. He wanted to help them navigate the complications of the retail market. And, I think in this case, $1,000 is really kind of unjust. I mean, he has one customer at this point. I think he has gotten up to speed. He admitted his mistake. He, has come forward on his own. And, I think it's just, again, a little bit heavy-handed for us to impose a $1,000 fine. So I want to grant him the license so he can move forward. But I do not want to, I'm not going to vote in favor of the fine.
Of the penalty. Okay.
So I'd like to separate the question.
Okay. I'm just going to read the one question, but you are on record as opposed to the fine. So Commissioner Richard votes no on the fine.
Okay.
All right. So with respect to items number 6 and 7, I move that we grant Orzel Energy Solutions a license to operate as a natural gas supplier and electricity supplier in Maryland, limited to broker services for the customer classes and service territories implied for and recommended by staff. That we direct Orzel Energy Solutions to pay a civil penalty amount in total of $1,000. $500 will be allocated to the gas license and $500 will be allocated to the electricity license. I move that we direct the company to provide marketing materials specific to its Maryland operations to the commission staff and Office of People's Counsel 30 days prior to utilization of the materials in Maryland. I move that we prohibit Orzel Energy from offering any type of variable rates to both its electric and natural gas customers without prior authorization by the commission. And finally, I move that we direct Orzel Energy Solutions to file notice with the commission within 30 days of any changes to the information in its respective applications. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman,
Aye.
Commissioner Linton, Commissioner O'Donnell.
And I'm going to explain my vote, Mr. Chairman. I think Mr. Orzel and Orzel Energy is very fortunate to be getting granted a license today. We take this very seriously. Our job is to balance a lot of interests, including the protection of our citizens. And quite honestly, sir, I would have made it a higher civil penalty. Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. Talking to a friend and making a mistake and violating our laws and our regulations is not acceptable to this commissioner. So, but I will vote aye, Mr. Chairman.
And Commissioner Richard.
Again, this gentleman is just here as a broker, not as a retail supplier of any kind. So I think we're exaggerating this. I'm a little confused by this procedure. I mean, so what am I voting on right now? I said I wanted to separate the question so you could all vote for the fine, but I don't want to vote for the fine.
You're not voting for the fine. You're opposed to the fine.
I am opposed to the fine. All right. Rather creative motion making here, but yes, I vote in favor of the granting of the license.
Commissioner, thank you. And I vote aye. The motion is approved. Mr. Orzel, we hope not to see you here again. Please get the affairs in order. Send the $1,000 penalty amount to the commission within the next 5 business days.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, item number 8 on today's administrative agenda consists of tariff revisions from the Association of Maryland Pilots. Representing this item for staff is Lucy Shea and Catherine Moriarty, and for the association, Jim McGee and Captain Eric Nielsen.
Thank you. I see the captain, I see his counsel. Waiting for staff to pull up. There she is. Miss Moriarty, good morning.
Oh, there she is. Beth Mackerlin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Hi. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is Lucy Shea on behalf of staff. My internet has been buffering and it just went out. I apologize. Maryland pilotage rates and charges are established by the Maryland Public Service Commission pursuant to Section 4303 of the Public Utilities Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. Services offered by the Maryland Association of Bay Pilots consists of two regulated rate structures, the bay rates and charges and the docking rates and charges. By order number 77555 issued January 16, 2002, the Commission accepted a settlement in case number 8904 in resolution of an application to increase rates of the Association of Maryland Pilots for pilotage services within Maryland waters. According to the settlement, an annual consumer price index inflation rate adjustment shall take effect on January 1st of each succeeding year if requested. The settlement would be extended automatically until terminated by one of the parties through written notice. The settlement specifies using a consumer price index based on urban consumers issued by the United States Department of Labor using the most recent 5-year moving average. Staff reviewed the filing and verified that the proposed tariff rates properly reflect the consumer price index 5-year moving average increase. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the proposed tariff for filing effective January 1, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Counsel for the Bay Pilots.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. James McGee with the Law Office of Robert Castro on behalf of the Association of Maryland Pilots. And with me today is Captain Eric Nielsen, President of the Association. We're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. It's good to see the captain. I don't have any questions. Do my colleagues?
Just an unrelated question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Captain Nielsen, good to see you again, as always. How's the pilotage going from Cove Point LNG in and out of the bay and at the dock down there?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. It's going very smoothly. You would have heard if it was not. And it's a robust business. We are averaging 6 to 8 port calls a month at Cove Point.
Very good, sir. Thank you. That's in my neck of the woods, of course. So that's why I wanted to see how it's
Thank you for asking.
Operations at the port are looking up. I know there's been a lot of activity there, political and otherwise. So I think the future looks very good for the port of Baltimore and up and down the Chesapeake Bay. I would move that we accept the tariff revisions for filing with an effective date of January 1st, 2022. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 9 is an application from 7 North Calvert Street Associates LLC for an energy allocation system for Munzie Apartments in Baltimore, Maryland. On this item for staff, we have Mikhail Spiegelman, and for the company, Heather Volz, Mark Gingras, and Eric Bloom.
Thank you. We'll begin with Mr. Spiegelman.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Michael Spiegelman on behalf of staff. This item concerns a request filed on August 13, 2021 by 7 North Calvert Street Associates LLC to install an energy allocation system. The system is for 146-unit apartment building located at 7 North Calvert Street, Baltimore, Maryland. Public Utility Article Section 7-304B2 states that energy allocation system may not be used for direct billing of energy costs to a tenant of an individual dwelling unit unless the Commission approves the system in accordance with this subsection. Comma 2026-0201 further specifies general approval criteria for the energy allocation system, namely, first, approval may be granted upon demonstration by the owner that the system results in a reasonable determination of the cost of the energy used within the dwelling unit. Second, testing and inspection of the energy allocation system may be required for the Commission to make such a determination. And third, testing and inspection of the furnace appliance or other equipment used in conjunction with the energy allocation system may be also required. 7 North Calvert Street Associates LLC has contracted with Energy Management System LLC for an installation of energy allocation system that will allow the owner of the apartment building to allocate to a tenant of the individual dwelling a portion of the cost of gas and electric energy consumed based on usage. 7 North Calvert Street Associates LLC initial application contained all information required under Commerce 2026, and subsequent data request responses have given staff no causes of concern in regards to the system itself. The apartment building construction is complete, and use of energy allocation system would comply with requirements under the relevant Commerce provisions. Therefore, staff recommends that the Commission approve the energy allocation system for the 7 North Calvert Street Associate LLC apartment building located in Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Volter, Mr. Bloom, anything to add?
Sure. My name's Eric Bloom. I'm the regional manager. Excuse me, sorry. I'm the regional manager with PMC Property Group, and we own and operate 12 apartment buildings in downtown Baltimore. I'm very green when it comes to utilities, which is why I have Heather and Mark with me here today, who are PMC's utility consultants. I'm happy to answer any questions about PMC and the high level aspects of the central plant and what we're trying to do regarding billing. But I would defer to Heather and Mark regarding any technical questions, just because they do this professionally, and I am just a landlord property manager.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bloom. We'll have some questions for you, beginning with Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Spiegelman, I have to ask you this question because I truly don't know the answer, and I don't have a concern about this item. I just want to understand it. So just don't be concerned that I have a concern. I don't, unless I hear something in the response that gives me a concern. But in the buck sheet I'm reading, so for heating, gas meters are used, and they meter, like traditional, the mass amount into the central unit for the boilers, right?
Right.
Okay. And the electric meters, again, mass into the building, right? They're
Yes.
BG&E meters. Then these runtime devices, they measure the runtime for individual heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units. Are they effectively just air handlers pulling air from the heating and cooling systems, or what are the individual heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units? What are they?
So each apartment has a separate system. It's kind of like a condenser with fan behind it, and when a tenant turns the thermostat on, so that runtime device is basically capturing individual usage for each apartment.
So it's measuring the runtime on the fan.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I had to figure out. I didn't know what these individual units were and what it was measuring. So it's measuring the time of the fan in 60-second increments.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. I could only hope to understand how half of this works. Maybe, Mr. Bloom, you're across the street. Perhaps you could give us a tour one day at 7 Calvert. Any additional questions from commissioners?
Just curious, Commissioner Spiegelman, so is it required that a master metered apartment building have an energy allocation system?
Sorry, Commissioner, can you repeat that?
Yeah,
microphone.
this is for my education as well. Is it required that a master metered apartment building have an energy allocation system? Or are there other methodologies? I'm just wondering how we keep up with all these master metered apartment buildings throughout the state and know if they have energy allocation systems.
My understanding that in some of the cases, usage for gas and electric is included in the rent. In that case, energy allocation system is not necessary.
Okay, so it's just allotted across on some pro rata basis?
Correct.
Okay. That's interesting. So I guess a building that takes the extra effort to come up with an energy allocation system, they're just doing this so that what is it, more equitable for people who are saving energy versus those who might be wasteful. I'm just interested to know the motivation for I guess implementing one of these energy allocation systems.
Yes, this is.
Go ahead,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is one of the reasons, but also the landlord doesn't have to basically pay for the gas and electric itself, or so basically every tenant would have separate bill for electric and gas usage.
Oh, okay. I guess I understand. All right. Well, thank you.
I would move that we approve the energy allocation system request for 7 North Calvert Street Associates LLC. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 10 is a joint petition for boundary revision from Delmarva Power and Light Company and Chaptank Electric Cooperative, Inc. On this item for staff, we have Roger Austin and Catherine Moriarty. For Delmarva, Matthew Seegers, Kevin Campbell, and David Shea. And for Choptank, Sarah Dahl, Tiffany Trotman, and Leroy Sverduk.
Hi, good morning, Ms. Moriarty. Mr. Austin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Roger Austin on behalf of staff. Delmarva Power and Light Company and Choptank Electric Cooperative have jointly petitioned the Commission to revise their respective service territory boundary lines for 7 properties in various parts of their service areas. Under rules dating back to 1966, the Commission generally allows service territory boundary modifications if it can be shown that it will be more economical or more reasonable for a customer to be served by an electric company other than the one in whose service territory the customer is currently located, if the 2 electric companies involved are in agreement and it appears to the Commission that it is in the public interest to grant the requested modification. Delmarva Power and Choptank have jointly proposed service territory boundary line revisions that reflect the actual property subdivisions as shown in land records. The company and the cooperative believe that by reflecting actual property lines, the proposed boundary lines will enable them to serve current facilities and planned future facilities more efficiently and eliminate uncertainty as to which utility can serve a future customer more effectively. No existing customer will be transferred between either utility if the Commission permits the proposed revisions. All existing customers within the proposed revised boundaries will remain with the utility that is currently serving them. All of the planned future facilities will be better served by nearby distribution facilities belonging to the utility in whose service territory they will belong. Based on the filing and discovery responses to staff's questions, staff is persuaded that the proposed territory swaps have met the relevant standards and are therefore in the public interest. Staff recommends that the Commission approve the requested changes to the service territory boundary lines of Delmarva Power and Choptank and request that the finalized territorial maps be filed with the Commission's Engineering Division upon completion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do either of the utilities have anything to add?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Matthew Seegers appearing for Delmarva Power. Appearing with me today is Mr. Kevin Campbell and Mr. David C. We have nothing to add to staff's analysis, but we are available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Choptank?
Good morning, Tiffany Troutman, Manager of Finance and Regulatory Affairs for Chop Tank Electric. Also with me is Leroy Spurduck, our Vice President of Engineering Services. We have no questions or comments, but we are here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. Obviously, your two service territories are like Swiss cheese. It's the most gerrymandered service territory overlay that we probably have in the country, and it might just be good if you redistricted at some point, but this seems to make sense on its face. Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. So this the project and moving these these lines from one area to another is, I'm assuming, based on the staff's bug sheet, is designed to address some of the solar projects that are being built in these areas. Noted that in the staff bug sheet, it mentions that there are at least 3 that are directly impacted. But those cases are still under consideration. At least I know one of them is. The other ones we've deferred to the Utility Law Judge Division. So, and I don't know if anyone knows this. Does anyone know what the solar project companies, what their response is to these proposals? Is this something that has been discussed in those particular proceedings, or is it happening independently?
On behalf of Chop Tank, this is Leroy. I just want to say that all of these conversations that we have with these solar developers, the ambiguity is causing them more heartache than clarity. And in several cases, our conversations with them, and that ambiguity has led to incredible frustrations. So we feel that this is a good move for that purpose.
Okay, so I'm kind of interested in making sure that we're not operating on 2 fronts here. We have pending cases in front of the Law Judge Division that's looking to approve the request from the solar companies, but we're having a request from the company here to modify the different service territory lines. So I guess one of my first questions is, what's the status of what's occurring in front of the law judges, and are these issues in those proceedings, or are they not? Sounds like they are.
Commissioner, speaking for DPL, I would imagine that these issues of who these projects are going to interconnect with are in those proceedings. I do not know that for a fact, but I would imagine that that would be something to be considered in those proceedings.
So, so I know in the Morgneck, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, road solar proceeding, which is case 9499. That case appears to still be ongoing, and there's seems to be some motions, a strike, and other things going forward, back and forth. So I guess again, these are matters that are not before us, it's commission. So, and I'm not necessarily opposed to the requests that the companies are making here today. I'm just making sure that, just for example, if we issue an opinion stating that Morgneck Road Solar, for example, now has to work with Chop Tank as opposed to Delmarva, what impact does that have on the proceedings that are in front of the Law Judge Division now? And I don't know the answer to that. That's why I'm asking. Again, I'm not opposed to what you're requesting. I just don't want the law judges to suddenly find out that the process they've been following to resolve their cases. And in the case of 9499, it appears as though a settlement was proposed. I don't know the terms of it because it's not in front of us, but I don't know if the settlement addresses this issue or not. So I'm just trying to find out where those cases are and how this request impacts those proceedings. And I'm not looking for a specific answer, just very generically, if this is an issue that's we should be thinking about, or if it's an issue for us to be concerned about at all.
Commissioners, Catherine Moriarty on behalf of Staff Council. I'm also part of the settlement and the Constant Solar project. And yes, the territories of, where these projects are being installed has been considered as part of the settlement. But as specific changes in costs, I would have to report back to the commissioners on that.
Well, perhaps Commissioner Linton, and it seems like Counsel for the Utilities might not be prepared to answer today. We do have a number. We have Morgan Eck, we have Todd Solar with Invenergy. We had a couple others as well. I get the sense that nobody at this table is opposed to sort of the nuts and bolts of what's going on here. But if there are unintended consequences with respect to open proceedings, before the commission now, particularly the CPCM proceedings before the Poll Jays, we need to nail this down. So there is no surprises. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we might be heading to giving them some time to resolve this and get straight answers. And it was a great question, Commissioner Linton. But I'd like to ask another question too, because if you don't know the answer to this, maybe when we bring this back, you could be prepared. If that's okay.
That sounds good. And I was going to suggest about a 2-week continuance here.
My question is, and if it was in the buck sheet, I missed it and I apologize. Are there specific either residential or C&I customers that will be switched from one utility to the other either way?
No, Commissioner.
Okay.
O'Donnell.
Okay, fair enough. I wanted to make sure that, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. Counsel for the Utilities, if we provide you with 2 weeks, is that a sufficient amount of time for you to do the necessary research and perhaps reach out to the respective judges to make sure that everything is above board here?
I think that should be sufficient, Your Honor. For DPL.
Yes, that works for Chop Tank. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, if we could continue this item for the administrative meeting on December the 1st.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And please call the next item.
Mr. Chairman, item number 11 on today's agenda is a request from the Department of Housing and Community Development to extend the deadline for spending 2018 to 2020 multifamily energy efficiency and housing affordability carryover funds. On this item for staff, we have Kevin Mosier and James Greger, and for the department, Scott Falvey and Amy Grasso.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Greger or Mr. Mosier?
Mr. Mosier. Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. Kevin Mosier on behalf of staff. On October 1st, the HCD filed a request for approval to continue spending funds allocated for the MEHA 2018 to 2020 program cycle through December 31st, 2022. Due to COVID, there have been delays in executing projects already under construction. The delays will result in the inability to complete some of the current committed work by the current December 31st, 2021 deadline. Staff has reviewed the filing and recommends the Commission approve the request.
Thank you. Does the department have anything to add?
No, I'm happy to answer questions, but I think that's a good summary of the motion made by the Department of Housing and Community Development. Scott Foley had called in, so if he has anything to add,
He's here in person.
Okay. Oh, okay, good.
I have nothing to add, but I'm here for any questions if anybody has any.
Do commissioners have questions? Seeing none, I would move that we approve the request. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard. Aye. I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 12 consists of tariff revisions from the Potomac Edison Company in compliance with order number 89971 in phase 2 of case number 9490. For this item for staff, we have Drew McAuliffe and Michael Dean, and for Potomac Edison, Jeffrey Trout and Ray Valdez.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. McAuliffe.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Drew McAuliffe on behalf of staff. On October 28th, 2021, Potomac Edison Company filed revised tariff pages to comply with Commission Order number 89971. This order affirmed the proposed order of the Public Utility Law Judge issued May 26, 2021, in case number 9490, Phase 2. The Commission initiated the Phase 2 proceeding, which required PE to file a new depreciation study within 18 months of the date of the final order in PE's most recent distribution rate case, number 9490. On September 22nd, 2020, PE filed its depreciation study and supporting testimony. The Public Utility Law Judge issued a proposed order on May 26, 2021, which was then affirmed on appeal by the Commission in order number 89971, which required PE to update its distribution rates to account for the new depreciation expense and lower revenue requirement. PE has complied with all allocation and rate design requirements as specified in the Commission orders. With the reduction in rates, a residential customer using approximately 1,000 kilowatt hours will experience a 46-cent reduction in their monthly bill. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the tariff revisions effective for service on and after November 1st, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Council for Potomac Edison.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Jeffrey Trout for Potomac Edison. Mr. Valdez, our Director of Rates, is with me as well. We have nothing to add to staff's recommendation, and we're here to answer your questions if you have any.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Seeing none, I move that we accept the tariff revisions for filing with an effective date of November 1st, 2021. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the final item today is item number 13, an application from Block Street Residential Development LLC for an energy allocation system for the 1405 Point Apartments in Baltimore, Maryland. On this item for staff, we have Mikhail Spiegelman, and for the company, Ringo Lanzetti.
Thank you, Mr. Spiegelman.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Michael Spiegelman on behalf of staff. This item concerns a request filed on August 13, 2020. December 20, 2020 by Block Street Residential Development LLC to install an energy allocation system. The system for 289-unit apartment building located at 1405 Point Street, Baltimore, Maryland. Public Utilities Article Section 7304B2 states that energy allocation system may not be used for direct billing of energy costs to a tenant of an individual dwelling unit unless the Commission approves the system in accordance with this subsection. Comma 2026-0201 further specifies general approval criteria of energy allocation system. Namely, first, approval may be granted upon demonstration by the owner that the system results in reasonable determination of the cost of the energy used within the dwelling unit. Second, testing and inspection of the energy allocation system may be required for the Commission to make such a determination. And third, testing and inspection of any furnace, appliance, or other equipment used in conjunction with energy allocation system may be also required. Block Street Residential Development LLC initial application did not contain all information required under Comma 2026. The company also did not provide evidence of compliance with the following Comma requirements. First, disclosure of influence of energy usage and cost. Second, compliance procedures. Third, procedures for referral to Consumer Protection Division and service charge limitations. Despite several follow-up inquiries in 2021, staff still has not received a response from the company regarding staff's data request for the supplemental information. We notified the company of our recommendation, and on November 12, 2021, representative for the company requested additional time to respond and requested that staff hold off on its recommendations until the company can complete work on ongoing projects. Based on company's failure to provide sufficient information, staff recommends that the Commission deny the request without prejudice. If the applicant performs energy allocation accuracy testing and complying with all applicable regulations, the company may reapply for the proposed energy allocation system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lanzetti, are you with us? It does not appear that Mr. Lanzetti. Is there anybody here from Block Street Residential Development LLC? Okay, it looks like it'll be a default judgment. Do commissioners have questions of Mr. Spiegelman, Commissioner O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Spiegelman, I wanted to ask you, had the engineering division actually tried to pay this address a visit to see if they were kind of trying to get an authorization for a system they already had installed and are operating? Is that a possibility?
Yes,
And
yes.
you have?
No, I asked that question if in my data request, if site is available for visit, but they never return my, they never provide responses to my data request.
So that has warning flags going off for me, saying maybe they got the system in, they're operating it contrary to law. But you know, what do we do about something like that? Do we have to have their permission to come visit, or can we just go see the building manager?
Perhaps staff counsel can answer that question.
I believe we would normally have to obtain permission. They're not a public service company under the definitions.
So you think we'd be violating some tenet of law if we went and knocked on their door and say, "Can we talk to you?"
Well, I don't want to get real legal, but the Fourth Amendment would apply.
In what regard? Now I'm. In what regard would the Fourth Amendment apply?
Oh, you're all right.
Yeah, I'm interested in this. I want to know if there's a system in there or not, and I am not going to accept no from someone who doesn't have the authority to say yes. So
Well,
that's an alternative.
Your question was whether we could just go there and inspect it.
No,
as I understand it,
I
Your
said,
Honor.
can we pay them a visit, Mr. Dean, and ask permission, since they're non-responsive, pay them a visit, knock on their door and say, "Can we talk to you?"
We certainly can do that.
That's all I'm asking.
Yes, we can go there, and if they're willing to admit us for an inspection, that'd be okay. And
And just to be clear, that doesn't violate anybody's Fourth Amendment rights under the Constitution, right?
Yes, sir. I misunderstood your question then.
All right, fair enough. So I might suggest to I think my sense is we're likely to agree with staff's recommendation here, but I think maybe some follow-up on behalf of engineering to find out what's going on here. Because maybe they asked for permission, then realized they weren't going to be able to comply, and it better leave a sleeping dog lie. That's kind of the suspicion I got. I don't know if that's true, but I think the effort to verify that is worthwhile.
I do understand that we do have an unidentified caller on the line, and you may have trouble unmuting. I don't know if that's Mr. Lanzetti. We have an area code 703 number. If so, this is your final opportunity to speak.
This is Heather Volz with Energy Management Systems from the prior application. That is my telephone number. I had to call in because I was having audio issues.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Volz. I appreciate it.
That.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to call a motion that we deny without prejudice the Block Street Residential Development LLC's request. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved with nothing else on today's administrative meeting. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.